On March 30, 2025, the United States deported 17 individuals to El Salvador. The Trump administration alleges these individuals are gang members. They are accused of serious crimes, including murder and rape. This deportation has sparked controversy, with critics questioning the methods and legal grounds for the action. This deportation is part of a larger Trump administration effort to crack down on gang violence. They are targeting individuals they believe pose a threat to national security. However, civil rights groups are raising concerns, arguing that the deportations raise due process and human rights concerns. The individuals deported were flown to El Salvador on a chartered flight. Upon arrival, they were immediately transferred to the custody of Salvadoran authorities. The deportees are expected to face charges in El Salvador, but many fear they will face harsh treatment and lack of due process. The situation highlights the complexities of immigration enforcement and raises questions about the U.S. government's approach to combating gang violence. This deportation is just the latest development in a long and contentious issue. The U.S. has a history of deporting people to El Salvador, many of whom have faced violence and persecution upon their return. It remains to be seen what the long-term consequences of this latest deportation will be. The Trump administration asserts its actions are legal, citing existing immigration law as justification for the deportations. The administration argues that the individuals in question had final orders of removal, meaning they had exhausted all legal avenues to remain in the U.S. However, this deportation is not solely based on immigration law. The administration attempted to use the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. A federal judge temporarily blocked this move after a lawsuit by the American Civil Liberties Union, or ACLU. The administration is appealing this decision and taking their case to the Supreme Court. This operation was not a unilateral action by the U.S., it involved collaboration with the government of El Salvador. El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele publicly supported the deportations, calling them a joint military operation between the two countries. Bukele has taken a hardline stance against gangs, granting the military broad authority to combat gang violence in El Salvador. The Trump administration has framed these deportations as part of a broader counterterrorism effort. Both Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Pentagon Chief of Staff Joe Casper use this terminology. This characterization further fuels the debate, with critics arguing the administration is using overly broad language that could have dangerous consequences for due process rights. This deportation has faced significant opposition. The ACLU is at the forefront of legal challenges, arguing that the administration is circumventing due process. They claim the government is using unreliable methods to determine gang affiliation. The ACLU points to the administration's Alien Enemy Validation Guide, a checklist that uses factors like tattoos, clothing, and hand gestures as evidence of gang membership. The ACLU's lawsuit highlights a critical concern, arguing that the administration is deporting individuals without sufficient evidence. This raises serious questions about the fairness and accuracy of the process. The ACLU emphasizes the potential for mistakes and misidentifications, warning of the dire consequences for those wrongly deported. Further concerns stem from the temporary detention of the deportees at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. This location is notorious for holding terrorism suspects, and its use in this case has amplified fears about the administration's approach. Critics argue that holding individuals accused of gang affiliation at Guantanamo Bay sets a dangerous precedent, further blurring the lines between immigration enforcement and counterterrorism operations. The White House has defended its actions, with Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt stating that agents use a litany of criteria to determine gang affiliation. However, the administration has not provided detailed information about this process. A list of 16 deportees was published by Fox News and confirmed by the White House. This list revealed that 12 had criminal convictions, 1 individual self-admitted to gang membership, and 3 others were facing charges. However, the lack of transparency surrounding the remaining individual and the criteria used for gang affiliation continues to raise concerns. The deportation of these 17 individuals has significant implications. It impacts U.S.-El Salvador relations and has profound consequences for those deported. The incident has strained relations between the two countries and sparked criticism from human rights groups. The long-term impact on cooperation between the U.S. and El Salvador on issues like immigration and security remains uncertain. For the individuals deported, the situation is dire. They face an uncertain future in El Salvador, with many fearing persecution and violence. They are returning to a country grappling with gang violence, poverty, and corruption. The lack of support systems for deportees in El Salvador further exacerbates their vulnerability. This case highlights the complexities and controversies surrounding U.S. immigration policy. It raises fundamental questions about due process, human rights, and the government's approach to combating gang violence. The use of the Alien Enemies Act, the collaboration with El Salvador, the detention at Guantanamo Bay, and the lack of transparency surrounding the gang determination process all contribute to the controversy. The long-term consequences of this deportation remain to be seen. However, one thing is certain, this event will have a lasting impact on the lives of those deported and on the ongoing debate about U.S. immigration policy. Subscribe to our channel for more updates. This is News Scope, keeping you informed.